That's it.
Hello and welcome everyone to Overdose and Chill 156. I hope I've got that number right. My name is Ryan, so I'm the Chief Experience Officer here at Overdose. And besides me here is someone very special to us. His name is James Taylor. He is the CEO and founder of Particular Audience. How's it going, James?
Very, very good, Ryan. Thank you for having me today. Thanks for the nice introduction.
Thanks for joining us, dude. I guess let's kick this off for those who don't know who Particular Audience is, and I think you're probably best to speak to this. For those in the audience, can you give us a bit of a brief outline of Particular Audience as a platform and what it does?
Yeah, we essentially provide anything that Amazon does for Amazon to other retailers. So we got set up a few years ago, recognizing that a lot of the kind of machine learning behind Amazon wasn't on other websites. So we aim to democratize that.
Cool. And then you've also got a whole bunch of other tool sets and features that Particular Audience obviously applies to standard e-commerce stores like bundles and all those other types of personalization that comes into the mix that you see from other, I guess, players out there. What particular feature for you is the one that seems to be the most compelling for e-commerce merchants?
I mean, AI bundles is always the quick and easy. I think no one disputes the value there, and it just drives like obvious uplift in baskets. There's a lot more. I mean, the sort of concept of having a completely different website for every customer is behind what we do, and within that is search, and vehemently not at keyword search, which is probably still dominant on most websites today, which requires mountains of synonym rules and redirects to make functional. We use large language models and transformer AI architectures to make a very intuitive search experiences. The modern consumer is now used to, and within all of that as well, we have a really compelling on-site engine for retail media. So supplier-sponsored products for multi-brand retailers.
Yeah, that's very cool.
It's a very high growth area at the moment. So.
Yeah. And then there's one other particular feature that I love and have seen firsthand, which is the price match exit intent. I don't think I've ever seen any other platform perform anything like that. You know, tell us a little bit about that feature as well. I think that's quite important for some retailers out there to truly understand that that capability.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the biggest impact on conversion rate uplift. I think, especially in this economy, everybody's price checking. So we have real-time pricing data from name the retailer, and we'll have it. And we can run real-time price checks on retailer websites and then either affirm to the customer that they have the best price today, which you'll see on websites like Dan Murphy's, or undercut the price of the competitors in real time to give the customer the best price. So again, a bit of a no-brainer for the customer experience. All sorts of rules to protect against margin and things like that, but a really effective tool, and we're fortunate to have the monopoly on that right now. Yeah, there's no competitors in the space.
Yeah, it's truly like the power of it is incredible. Like for context for listeners, if you don't understand what this is, so essentially you land on a product. It could be like a vacuum cleaner as an example. Don't know where I came up with that example, but a vacuum cleaner, and then what ends up happening is a exit intent pop-up could appear. So an exit intent is when you're about to close the browser, and then it would essentially display you a price beat, I guess a matchup of a price that you can beat against other competitors. So you can always get the cheaper price. Crazy powerful, and yeah, I highly recommend looking into that tool if it is relevant to you. Now, just on that piece, do you feel like customers gamify it? You know, you can start to understand that you go and close the browser and then potentially get a higher discount on a product. You know, a customer's going to be aware, and are they going to be that smart to be able to get discounted products?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of there's all sorts of impression capping But ultimately, I mean, a lot of our websites have a button in the page. Like if you go on Dan Murphy's, there's literally a button above the buy now button that has the option to click. So they can trigger it as much as they like. The other one is when you're highlighting a product name to copy and paste it into Google Shopping, that will trigger the price beat as well. And some retailers only use some of those, that they choose between them. But I think that, I mean, I remember early on when I think, The Good Guys was the pioneer in this, and they were first to go live with it a couple of years ago, and it got out on Oz Bargains, and we all thought, oh God, that's terrible. And then they loved it because all of a sudden the traffic just went through the roof on those products. So I think it's good. I think it builds trust between the retailer and the customer, especially retailers that talk about a price promise. They're sort of putting their money where their mouth is. And, the absolute increase in sales volume far offsets any reduction in margin. I think it's an average margin cost of about 2% across SKUs. So it's very profitable.
So it's interesting because, we conduct a lot of years of research and talk to our customers and our clients' customers, and price is always the primary factor of why, essentially why customers would buy for you versus other online retailers, unless it's obviously very brand orientated and, they've got a huge association to that brand and will only buy for that brand. How do these merchants market that though, right? Like, because there's obviously, you have to land on that side and understand that you have price beat, but are they proactively outreaching that information using campaigns, on social, all those things too?
Yeah, I mean, I think some retailers, it's absolutely central to their message. So, think of the lowest liquor price guarantee or things that have been all over billboards I've seen in Sydney for the past few months. I think that there are other things that are being explored, which are more sort of custom implementations. So like DJ City is another website that uses this, and they're interested to see how they can use it in offsite retargeting. Reminded you that, you looked at this product and we do have the best price still, come see it. So I think that it's starting to find its way into more channels than just offsite.
Yeah. Do you have to be, how do I say this? Do you have to be careful with who's on that? Because if you're on The Good Guys, as an example, you've implemented a price match, and then their competitor's got a price match also where they're just constantly fighting each other on a price match.
It's a common question. It's like, well, what happens when the whole market has it? And first of all, not every brand in market is about, price is the top priority. But even if it was, it's a conversion, it's an abandonment capture tool. So if you've got the traffic there in the first place, it's just giving you the means to convert the customers. So really, it's all about who can get the traffic to the website in the first place. And we just make sure that it's a far less leaky bucket.
That's fair. All right. So being the founder, which is always a bit of a trophy and something to be proud of. When you started this company, particular audience, and maybe talk about the history when you started it, right? Because in reality, there's, you've got your own unique features for a particular audience. But what was the thing that kind of sparked your interest, being like, I need to do this? This is, this is a huge opportunity for merchants out there. What's that story? So, and I know that it's still the case today in many websites, but I mean, you'll recall 10 years ago, websites were managed in a very manual way. A lot of manual merchandising, everything was pinned and moved, far less sort of dynamic. I used to run a business which recently sold to Epsilon Publicis, and it was also a personalization company, but everything was rules-based. You'd literally pick a segment of customer. You'd wait for them to exhibit a certain behavior during the flow of their browsing experience. And then you'd hit them with messages or anything, but it was completely rules-based. I mean,
I remember building one like hyper-dimensional campaign for Insure and Go back in like 2014, 2015. And depending on the sort of combination of like, well, what type of holiday was it? Is it a ski holiday or a beach holiday, or and which continent was it on? And what type of travel insurance was the user selecting? Like that would create all of this variability in the content of the imagery and the banners and things on the website. And I was like, surely, I didn't even know what machine learning was at the time. I was like, surely this thing, machine learning and AI, can do that better and more automatically. And I looked at Amazon, and you go onto the Amazon landing page and it's completely unique to me.
Yeah.
There's different elements that are based on different journeys I've exhibited. So like, yes, I've gone to buy my mum moisturizing cream for Mother's Day, and now I've got Elemis moisturizer across one area, but it hasn't dominated my whole experience. I've still got the genre of books that I'm interested in, or kids' toys, and like, it's all sort of still very applicable. And when I go into search, I would get the different search ranking to someone else. If I go into the jeans section, and I've been looking predominantly at male items previously, I'll probably see more men's jeans than perhaps a female going to look at jeans. So that sort of like hyper dynamic different website for every customer, which isn't at all an original slogan. I think Jeff Bezos was quoted with saying, if we have 1 million customers, we need 1 million websites, because if you can be that applicable and relevant, you're going to increase your odds of conversion. And when Amazon got that right, for every 10% increase in products on Amazon, there was a 12% increase in revenue, because they got the cross-sell right, they got the discovery right, and it just became a far more intuitive interface. And then the question came up, well, how do they do that? Like, it's not
it's not take the code from Amazon and just plug it in somewhere else. It's
pretty much. I mean, there's a guy called Anand Rajaraman, who was the head of technology at Amazon, and he sort of pioneered all of their search and recommendation systems, and this was long before vector search came to the fore. He then had a company that was acquired by Walmart, and then he did it all for Walmart under Walmart Labs. And obviously, if you need to be qualified for this, he's qualified. He has co-authored a book called Mining Massive Datasets, which is a dry read, but it is extremely insightful into thinking about data structures and how to use data in ways that machine learning models can actually develop these sort of AI-powered websites, create this hyper-personalization. And it took me about 3 months of really trying to wrap my head around it until I figured out how it all functions. And it completely changed my mindset on, what I was doing in this prior company with this sort of rules-based user sort of data-orientated personalization, and to think a lot more about the actual like items and the entities on the website and the relationship between those. Because when a customer interacts with an item, in the same way that when you listen to a specific song or a playlist on Spotify, it knows all of the associated items and all of the different categories and search results thereafter that are more relevant to you based on those signals that you've taught the algorithm. So once that clicked, I put initially half my life savings into building a platform, which was the early particular audience platform. And of course, everything takes twice as long and costs twice as much. So then all of my savings went in. And then I thought, well, if I've spent all my savings, I'm not going to stop there. So then I got into mountains of credit card debt. So
that's commitment.
Yeah, and then just got going.
And then what year did you start Particular Audience? When did you found it?
So started it officially towards the end of 2017. And I mean, there was, almost probably about 9 months of R&D. And I was working very closely with an awesome guy. He's now at Optus, a guy called Andrew Driscoll, and he was at General Pants at the time. And they weren't paying us anything, but we were just working together to kind of develop the early product on that website. And then you kind of have your first few signatures, and as a startup back then, so like mid 2018, you've built some basic features, but you haven't built, like, it's nowhere near what we are several years later.
Yeah, it's not the utopia version.
No.
V1. Yeah.
I mean, even in the past year, we've really gone up market and really more of an enterprise offering. But the thing I have to keep saying to the board is, no, and they know, of course, as well, no startup is born enterprise ready. Right. So it's definitely been a journey.
Interesting. So I got a couple of questions just from that yarn there. Obviously, you started in 2017. Classic question, did you see a good uplift when COVID came around? And what feature sets did you have in place during COVID when e-commerce had quite a boom, in fact?
Yeah, we were very dominant personalization focus.
Yeah.
Then, sort of 2019, 2020. It was pretty scary at the start of COVID, right? No one really knew what, like, it's easier in retrospect. Yeah, great, good for e-commerce. But I think everyone just panicked about just general, what does this mean for the consumer economy? Does everyone just stop spending? So, we were racking the internet to get as much like previous knowledge of pandemics and things to see what it would mean for us. And we didn't really know. We did an emergency funding round at the start of COVID just to make sure that we were adequately funded, because we just didn't know how long it was going to go for and everything. And I think even a lot of the team took salary cuts, which we later paid back when we were able to raise that money. But after the first few months, all of a sudden, and it wasn't globally, all of a sudden one region would just spike. And it was sort of correlated with lockdowns. And all of a sudden we'd have a bunch of interest from Italy, and then we'd have a bunch of interest from the UK. And it would kind of become this cycle depending on where each market was at in its lockdowns.
In COVID, yeah. And
how the retailers in those markets would suddenly realize that, oh my God, demand has just gone through the roof. And therefore they had to get their houses in order. They had to sort out how their websites functioned. Supply chain obviously became a huge issue, which really came to a head later on. But yeah, then COVID ended up being exceptional. I think we saw about 400% year-over-year growth through COVID. So that was big.
Right. I also want to give you credit to what you said before, which kind of amazed me. You're like, it took 3 months to get my head around this algorithm. Now, 3 months is, for something so complex, is not long, to be fair. So you're clearly a smart guy. But I do just want to go back in terms of that machine learning aspect of it, right? Because you're right, like a lot of people do have personalizations, and it is very conditional based. So, i.e. customer is returning, i.e. customer is location, blah, blah, blah. And it can be quite time consuming for the people behind the scenes on the e-commerce site. And also to monitor and measure, because things change, right? Like the evolution of e-commerce, your customers, it does change, and you need to be on top of that. How advanced does maybe in relation to particular audience, how advanced does it go? So in your example, when you talked about Amazon and you bought for Mother's Day, right? Can it go so far and beyond to understand that there's an event like Mother's Day that would be changing potentially that behavior and those recommendations up front? It still knows that you're a male, but you're potentially buying female products because of this particular event. And then even further to that, Mother's Day is different depending on what country you live in too. So it still has to understand geographic location too. How advanced is this for a particular audience?
Yeah, that's really good way to sort of question it. So I guess there's two sides. There's the people and there's the products. Mm-hmm. And people can exhibit two types of signal: explicit and implicit. So an explicit signal would be searching for something or navigating to a listing page. Implicit is, which search results you click on, which products you tend to view or compare, how you build a basket, even if you don't end up buying that basket, what you remove from the basket. Scroll speed, there's all sorts of levels in the hierarchy of implicit signals that you can track. And on the other side, on the product side, obviously we know what the products are, we know the metadata around them, we know what they look like, we have their images, we know which products get bought together, we know which products get viewed together. There's a great wealth of intelligence to be born of that sort of product-orientated data. And then to your point, it's a moving target. Events are changing. My real-time implicit behavior might be completely at odds with my historic implicit behavior. And the catalog as well, the product catalog might be changing. And you have a different, completely different levels of data on each specific SKU in the product catalog. So it becomes this really hyper-dimensional problem. And I think that there's one thing that we got right early, which was understanding that hierarchy, understanding the relationships between products. And I mean, in most basic terms, if you look at items 1, 2, 3, we can predict that you're going to look at item 4 because, well, everybody else that looked at products 1 to 3 did that.
Yeah.
And therefore we have with a high degree of certainty that that's going to be the most relevant product to show you next. And I think that concept of prediction is actually really key to how we think about personalization, because personalization is just good prediction. And let's say that item 4 never actually had any customer or wisdom of the crowd data associated with it because it's new to the website, but it is also really applicable to the customers that looked at items 1, 2, and 3. Well, how do we do that? And that's where other algorithms come in, like natural language processing and computer vision. So computer vision is more sort of fashion, furniture, homewares specific, and NLP is more electronics and food and health and pharma and that sort of stuff. But it identifies items with the most sort of common, similar, or associated attributes to the journey that the customer is having today. So when you understand which items to place in front of a customer, that's sort of half the battle. Then the question is, well, what's the customer doing to define what you should show them? So if I'm on a product detail page, then obviously being able to cross-sell me or give me a bundle that's automated or a complete look or similar items. There's some really lovely applications on that. I mean, if you go on Calvin Klein or Surf Stitch, which are also clients of ours, when it's out of stock in a specific size, it uses the computer vision to find the most visually similar items that are in stock. So like there are very specific use cases in that journey where the customer gets the right thing for them. And what we've done is we've predicated, okay, well, in that implicit context, this is the algorithm type that should run, because the goal that customer is looking for is either an alternative item or a complementary item or associated.
So you could always like go even deeper in that to some degree if we were to be talking about experience. And this is just me spitballing and trying to be innovative here. Say someone like an ASOS, and you are a very loyal customer and you spend on a very frequent basis. You could use that machine learning to almost create their own category page. Like, hey, this is your wardrobe, this is your style, based off the premises of previous browsing behavior, based off the premises of their purchase behavior, based off the premises of all those similar attributes, and go, hey, this is what we believe is your style. Have a look.
Totally. And homepages can become that for a customer.
Yeah.
And then you've got all of the business logic that flows into that. So what if the retailer got too much stock of? Or what are the high margin stuff? Or what are the own brand products that would fit this specific customer? And most excitingly, perhaps for the multi-brand retailer, which brands that they stock would be willing to pay to get their products in front of the right customer?
Yeah. That's really cool. And I think as like another one, because I'm just like, my brain's going wild here of just potential ideas that e-commerce players could potentially play with here with this machine learning. is to your point, is that there's another variable, which is the stock available or is the size available for me, right? So, which is typically a roadblock for a lot of customers when you go, I love this style, it's a size medium, my medium's gone. You could actually have a prompt there saying, hey, this size is out of stock. However, if you click on view similar items and whatnot, you may be able to particularly find something very similar in your size. All right. So instead of creating this roadblock type of experience or this maybe level of disappointment in the customer experience, is that you can push it and drive it a lot harder.
And the proof of the utility is in the engagement, right? Like I think the app See Similar for out of stocks get a 60% click-through rate, which is like crazy that many people that see it, click on it. It's
because we do actually, I think ASOS does have that visually similar sort of feature on their site. But I think the key point for any listeners out there or merchants or whoever does listen to this out in the world is that it's not hard work for you in the back end, is it? Right? It's not constantly making changes to rules. It's allowing the machine to do the work and to measure the customer experience. Yeah,
that's right. There's no like technical debt on a setting that was set a month ago or 6 months ago, and why are these funny results showing? It flows really automatically. And if you do want to go in and doctor stuff, you can.
Yeah, exactly. So you can control certain rules to make sure that
if you want to pin it somewhere, you can. But there are more scalable ways to do it. You know, if you're boosting within personalization and you apply different boosting cocktails to different attributes of things, and creating a scalable approach.
And then, sorry, maybe I'm talking so deep about the platform because I'm fundamentally, obviously, very interested in it. But like, what about the content side of things too? Because we look at a lot of data to look at customer behaviors ourselves, and we understand that customers, especially buying electronics or like TVs and stuff, it requires multiple sessions for people to convert, right? They might have to consolidate with their partner because you're about to spend $6,000 on some random TV, and maybe your significant other is not keen to spend that amount. Hence the reason why there's a delay in purchase. But like, if a promotion was to come up on that TV, can you facilitate that promotional content block on that homepage as well? Like, can you bring all that to surface and try to really drive that conversion home?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way to think about that, I mean, usually the bottleneck there is actually creating the content, right? Like, do you have banners or content for every item? Do you have it for every subcategory, every category, every brand? How does it function? Usually there's that hierarchy. So if you've been looking at TCL televisions, maybe there is a piece of content that is specific to the item you've been considering, but maybe there isn't, and it's a more generic sort of brand and subcategory bit of content. But in any case, I mean, we can, a retailer can map those approved content pieces with functional call to actions and everything in their own product feed. So they can just say, this is the content that's associated with these items. And in the same way that a recommendation engine works, it works for the content. So if you've been looking at that item or associated items, it's going to know which content's been in front of you, so that when you go on the website, the banner is about TCL televisions and associated accessories, and not about hairdryers.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Because for us, when we'll have other, like our SEO team probably vouch for this as well, is that we do also say that content is king, right? So when you're looking at a particular product, maybe it's concern related, it's medical, like maybe you're looking at, I don't know, a healthcare retail store, you're in allergy seasons, you're not really interested in anything outside of getting your hands on antihistamines or anything related to that, is it's also really powerful to start to bring articles and knowledge base and all those types of things within the experience to really elevate the importance of why you should be looking after your allergies or all those things as well.
Yeah, so like with National Product Review, another client, we do a lot of sort of reviews and product review content within search there and recommendation. And on the flip side, there's certain content that retailers might not want to be displayed for the risks. I mean, Life Pharmacy in New Zealand, we're not allowed to show any weight loss, balding, hair loss, sexual health. Those are kind of strictly off the table for what risk they might have in terms of upsetting or offending somebody. So it goes both ways. It's like the AI runs, but there's every bit of control on how to do it.
On what to display. Yeah. Or if there's legalities behind what you can and can't say as well. Makes sense. So what I was going away from the product for a second is, obviously you are quite ingrained in e-commerce, and it's a big thing that we do at Overdose, of course, is, people looking at, I guess, optimizing websites and CRO and all those different types of things. What would be some tips from your perspective and what you've learned, having particular audience? Like, what are some of the low-hanging fruit that maybe particular audience can facilitate? What are the quick wins, etc., that they should be considering?
Yeah, I think we're sort of building an entire full funnel personalization strategy. I mean, it can be done incrementally, but you're thinking about the entire journey and then extending that to email and offsite. It's a big project to invest in and think about. And the same with search and optimizing and fine tuning the AI search models. So in terms of quick wins, I mean, product bundles. Like it's always the easy, off the shelf thing to just pick up and run with. People are short on their attention spans. If you know what they're buying and you can quickly cross sell something, it's like the chewing gum at the checkout in the supermarket. It's just an easy bolt. And usually the accessories are higher margin. So it's a really material impact for the business for extremely low effort.
Yeah. It's the showing the batteries at a toy store by the counter because you need batteries to actually run it type of system.
Exactly.
So with the bundles in particular, how does this feature operate for a particular audience? Because, speaking of some of our clients, is that there is set rules that definitely need to be in play. So buying a chainsaw, you can only buy that battery. We do not want to make sure that the recommendation is another battery. Otherwise, you've ruined that customer experience and probably that loyalty to that brand. Yeah, how does particular audience work in this case?
Yeah, so you can either sort of let the machine learning take from all of the on-site purchase data and the in-store purchase data as well can be ingested for that. But you do want control. I mean, Target is another customer of ours, and often people are buying lots of t-shirts together, but in a bundle you might not want a t-shirt of bundles. It might not sort of seem as much sense. So you can go down to a slot level and say, well, this has to be from this category or this set of categories, but it mustn't be from the same category as the item that you're looking at. So you can do that kind of like high level filtering, but you can also define specific products. You can start to tie that you want to actually, ensure that battery goes with that. Another good example is automotive. I think that the retailer is liable for blowing up the car if you put the wrong
gasket in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's really, really important ontology to get right. So yeah, I mean, you can do everything, and frankly, it's not going to be on every product that you have to manually curate it. So you can let the ML do its work, but have that control where you need to.
Yeah. And who would be your ideal customer? When you talk about Targets and the Good Guys and stuff, they sell multi-brands, multi-products, multiple SKUs, basically anything that you kind of need in a household to some extent. Would that be the ideal customer for a particular audience? Is a large SKUs and audiences, etc.?
It definitely that type of customer lends itself to our whole product stack. So the Good Guys, search, Rex, compare panels, cross sell, you name it. Retail media obviously lends itself to big multi-brand retailers. PriceBeat lends itself to multi-brand with competing websites that sell what you sell. But the computer vision stack that we've got lends itself really nicely to furniture and homewares and fashion. So we just have a huge sort of customer base there as well. But retail media and PriceBeat don't really apply to that. So we definitely don't exclude. Bundles just goes for everyone. So it might want to be more of a complete the look for fashion than a bundle it with. But that's just semantics in terms of tile names. Does that answer the question? I think, yeah, it's mostly big multi-brand, but we really do work with cross category.
And then another, I guess, pressing question from me is, when we look at, I guess, the full customer experience, of course, there's in-store in play here too, right? So, actually truly understanding the customer at the POS too, right? So actually being able to collect or understand who that customer is, seeing their order history, being able to provide information to whoever is behind the counter, maybe some AI logic or recommendations that you should be providing them there. Do you have that capability now?
Yeah.
Or something that you're looking into?
No, we do. So, I mean, everything, if ever anyone wants to have a look through the API documentation, it's completely headless offering. So if they do want to integrate that in POS or point of sale, they can. The other thing is, around loyalty programs and customer IDs. So particular audience does not track any personally identifiable information. We've always been very privacy orientated. So we generate these random customer IDs that get associated with each customer. Well, those customer IDs can just be mapped to your CDP or your loyalty or your email marketing platform customer IDs. And you can then use our endpoints to say, hey, for customer ID 123, what are the most relevant products to them right now? Or customer has put this item in their basket, what should we cross-sell with them? Like our endpoints can enable all of that,
Yeah, because that's the full end-to-end experience that, I think a lot of merchants should be looking into for sure. And what can be fed in from in-store only can also be fed to online as well, and for marketing reasons and all that kind of stuff. So
definitely.
The power of that is incredible for sure. Is there any kind of, I guess, common trends that you see or challenges that you see for people first starting off with personalization? Are there things that people just don't capitalize on enough that you should really start to look into? Like search mapping is a really sort of like key one that we typically see, right? Like, is it been like, are you getting zero search results, or are you actually providing results that are meaningful despite not making sense? Or merchandising on search is another key one. If I know I'm looking for, I've always looked for grey jerseys or yellow beanies. In this example, I haven't made that purchase, but clearly my session behaviors have seen that behavior happen frequently. Is that the first thing that appears in my search? Is there anything like that you could kind of recommend people in that personalization space to be like, start doing this, or do this more, or look into this,
Yeah, I think the common things that we see are, first of all, a belief that personalization is about customer attributes, because that's born from a world of segment marketing, right? Like if I know certain bits about your demographic and your location and whatnot, I can build you into a segment. But the problem with segments is that not everybody in a segment is going to be interested with the content you're providing them. And there might be people that you've put in a different segment that would be. So I think really sort of trying to move towards like a segment of one mentality and understanding, you've looked at items that people that love yellow beanies and grey jumpers have also bought in the past. That tying that prediction together becomes really relevant. And I understand that merchandising teams want to pin, they want to curate a website. And like all platforms, we allow them to do that. It is very manual to do that. You can't do that across how many SKUs have you got? 1,000, 80,000? It sort of doesn't scale. So you need to, at a minimum, have this safety net of the machine learning at work to get that personalization right. And search is an interesting one because you find that anyone that over pins in their search experience, they might have forgotten 3 months later that they did something, and they're thinking their search results are really odd for this thing, but it's because they've got some pinning logic that's set up before. So it's really important, I think, to think about how do the new AI search tools that are out there provide automated relevant rankings, and how can boosting certain things within that improve the search experience while still achieving those business KPIs.
Nice. Now, we've been saying the word AI a lot, and obviously AI is probably the most topical subject in the last year and a half. Maybe a tricky one for you, but looking in the future, right, what sort of emerging technologies do you think will play a pivotal role in AI e-commerce?
We debate this a lot internally. I think the flavor of the moment, or the question of the moment, is do chatbots have a function in shopping? And I'm not going to unfortunately satisfy an answer here, but what we do know, is that people do like to make sure that they've seen everything that's available to them. Right? If you're looking for a new pair of white sneakers on ASOS, chances are you've probably been through multiple pagination stages to actually just make sure that you've really found the exact one you want, especially given that like two shoes can look alike, and when you receive them, they're not what you were hoping for. Now, would a chatbot interface that just gives you the single point estimate be a satisfying user experience there? I think that 20 years of poor search experiences have trained people to shop through the category and listing pages and doing all the facets and filters there just to make sure that they've got that full view. So behavioral change might come, but if I've learned anything, it's that you should not bet product roadmap and technology and utility of AI on behavioral change. In 2019, we launched a visual search product where you could upload a photo and find visually similar items on a website. Well, guess how many people are in the habit of going onto a website and uploading a photo to find what they're looking for? It's not many. So nice that we've got applications for that tech that we spent a lot of money building, such as the See Similar, but we don't sell the visual search anymore because the customer
the customer couldn't use it. Yeah, no, that's completely fair. It's an interesting point on the chatbot. I'd love to be in that debate with you guys, to be fair. But when you talk about like customer behaviors, even the likes of ChatGPT, where sourcing information is almost question to a ChatGPT, right? So that behavior has actually quickly changed as well. And it'll be interesting to see whether that does transfer into the e-commerce space, as per your point.
I do like the idea. It's not restricted to the facets and filters available. Literally, you can prompt to discover, as long as you have some certainty that, maybe it's, some small print at the bottom that says, of the 300 items in this, here are the top 4. Would you like to see more? There's probably ways to sort of have fallback.
The only challenge there we say is that you put, shit prompts into AI, you get shit prompts out to some degree, right? So you'd also have the behavior change is for customers to actually be relatively quite descriptive on exactly what they want. Because white sneakers will still probably give you 300 results, right? But you could be like white sneakers with black laces with brown sole, etc. Yeah. Like, do you think it's gonna? Do you think the AI is going to be powerful enough that you could be less descriptive and still provide really relevant results?
I mean, I actually think that is more of a solved problem because knowing what you've bought in the past and what you've looked at, and therefore being able to show you relevant stuff based on your search or navigation or browsing today, or your evolving basket contents. One of the other applications of the computer vision that we do, and Shop Nice Kicks in the US was a really good implementation of it, is having that see similar button within search results. So if you do get to a Stan Smith that you really like the look of, you can click see similar and it will just pull all the other Stan Smiths in line with it, so you can choose which specific color variant you like. So I think that the way that is probably most exciting to think about AI in e-commerce is because it's functional, right? Like we use sentence transformers, which is the T in GPT within our search product. The thing that I like to sort of wonder about is the interfaces. Like, how does our interface with shopping work? What happens if we move away from screen-based interfaces? I don't know if you ever saw a few years ago, but Google did a trial Amazon did a trial in Germany using recommendation algorithms to deliver items to people before they'd even bought them.
Wow, no, I haven't heard that. Yeah.
And if you didn't want it, you just left it in your delivery box and they collect it.
And did it work?
They don't do it anymore.
Okay, so yeah. See, I guess the one thing for me is it's not me in particular, but what you hear of is maybe when you push AI too far, maybe you're going you're getting in their bubble a little bit too much, like in that Amazon example, when I start to understand that I've got another box of beers outside because I buy beers there. Like, is that a good behavioral change, or is that just pushing it just a little bit too far, understanding that I need a replenishment of alcohol?
FMCG is probably the best example you could have thought of there, right? Like actually replacing the beers, like you have this conversation of the smart fridges and the reorders now. There is a convenience in that. I don't know if the economics fully work out. You're not going to have someone delivering a single bottle of milk because you've run out. So I don't know, but what I do know is that I would wait for behavioral change to fully take effect. And I think people have a certain expectation of the sort of shop assistant free experience on an e-commerce site. They like to browse, they like to sort of figure stuff out themselves. They just need to make sure that the right tech is there to help them navigate easily.
Of course. Yeah.
And it's store for a different experience.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I was going to mention one other thing that I've always been quite fascinated about with AI, which I don't think I've typically seen, but you mentioned it before, was around how you can integrate that with loyalty, right? And again, maybe bringing it back to price and promotions, is I foresee this sort of like opportunity where you have a loyalty program, you start to understand, if we're talking ASOS here, right? You probably have set brands that you typically buy from. Let's use Nike as an example. And then you've got a categorization that you could have Nike sneakers or Nike accessories, whatever that is. But then starting to use personalization as an automated tool to be like, okay, this person hasn't bought Nike sneakers, over, I don't know, say a 2-month period where typically we see them buy one a month, just as an example. Let's automate a very bespoke promotion purely for this particular customer on this particular product and brand, because we want to retain and we want to bring them back in, right? Do you see a need, or do you see that kind of quite suited?
Yeah, so I guess there's two responses I have here that are very different. So absolutely, if someone's fallen through that net of probability, are they buying from somewhere else? Have they just gone off the brand? In retail media, you see this a lot. Coca-Cola want to know when somebody hasn't bought from them for 6 months, and they're willing to put budget behind getting Coca-Cola in front of those people again. But also Pepsi want to know how they can target people that have bought Coca-Cola as well in the last 6 months to try and get their products in front of them, right? And so that becomes a a monetization opportunity for the retailer. In terms of like what you're talking about specifically within loyalty, there's an algorithm type called long-term, short-term, so what that does is it allows you to sort of predict in sort of temporal or ordinal, like time-based sequences of behavior, and that can become a highly effective model to help you know when to send what promotional or marketing content, especially emails and SMSs to customers based on very specific things that are applicable to them. So there are approaches to do it, and I would say that that's done exceptionally well by the Amazons of the world. You know, if you buy a book and another book a month later, you know, all of a sudden your sequence of reading is basically fixed for you. But then, for other retail, I think that's completely it's a huge opportunity. It's a huge gap in the market, and it just takes that sort of education as well to understand why it's important and how to do it.
100%. Well, this near hour for this session has gone a lot quicker than I thought. Obviously, we spinned up quite a yarn today, and we talked about some technical things. We talked about sort of the history, and we talked about the product, which I love. Is there any other sort of final thoughts or any types of, insight that you can help provide people on this call?
Probably just thinking about the year. So, you know, it's probably from an economic standpoint, not looking as rosy as we might have hoped it would have done at the start of the year. No guarantee that interest rates are going to be coming down now. I think retailers need to think very strategically about how they maximize every sale. And I think that things like product bundling can be massively accretive to basket size on that stuff. And I think as part of this, we wanted to provide an offer via Overdose to do a free. We've never done free trials ever before. To do a 10-week free trial of the bundling product via Overdose. So if any of the retailers are interested in that, please reach out to Ryan or Raven or any of the team at Overdose to understand what would be involved with that implementation.
Yeah, that's a very, very generous one, and I'm sure that you're going to get some interest there for sure. Yeah, so just to clarify, thanks to James and the particular audience team, they are providing a 10-week free trial, which does end at the end of June the 30th, I believe, this particular promotion. So if you do want to, essentially trial the bundles, which is probably some of the quickest and easiest wins that your business can have, trust me, get in touch with Overdose at overdose.digital. Alternatively, you can actually comment on this LinkedIn chat. You could say, I'm interested, or something along the lines of something positive, I hope, and we'll have someone contact you directly to have that conversation and how we do that. So anyways, James, love the chat, dude. Really appreciate the time. You're a smart bloke for sure, and particular audience is a crazy cool tool. I truly mean that. Loved having you on the chill.
Thanks, Ryan. Thanks so much for having me. Really great chat. Hope everybody enjoyed it. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim.